Welcome to another Grit and Grime basketball podcast episode. Is this 109?
Something like
Yeah,
that. Yep.
almost at 110. Yeah, episode 109 or not. We are back with four of the finest out of the UK. I'm your host, as always, David Sagoe. To my side, we have Thomas Arnal,
Hello.
works the videos.
Mm.
Below him on my screen, I don't know where he is on your screen. We have Jose Garcia Vidal.
Hey guys.
Today.
And next to him, we have the fire starter back to start more fires. Patris Gordon.
What's going on, people?
So this episode, we are going to have what I like to call a homer pod. For those of you that don't know what that is, that means we're going to talk about the teams that we support. But Patris doesn't have a favorite team, you say, David. To that, I say he will be the judge, the juror, and hopefully not the executioner of our teams and our opinions. So we're just going to do a quick rundown of how things have been going for our teams, say who's performing, who's not, any coaching observations we've seen, and then talk about whether we have any changes to our expectations in terms of where they'll finish in the standings. And then we will have Patris rule over that opinion and say, whether we're just being homers and sipping too much of the home juice, or we need to go outside, get some air, get a dose of reality. So we begin at home with the NBA champion Los Angeles Lakers. I'm proud to say it. I'm only going to say it once or twice this year, I've simultaneously been impressed and not impressed with our season so far. I think currently the Lakers sit atop the standings in first place. What are they? 8-3, 9-3. And to start the season, I said the Lakers hadn't gotten out of second gear. So we'll start off with that. I think the first few games, the first 10 games maybe, the Lakers didn't really seem at it. They fell behind against the Clippers and then got themselves back into the game. And then Paul George went off and put the game to bed. Beat the Mavs, beat the Spurs a couple of times, beat Memphis. And the team looked like it was playing preseason games, second gear, and there wasn't any enthusiasm. And I think part of that might be because of the quick turnaround from the championships. They've just played really for some of the most important games of their lives, and now they have to come and play these regular season games when they're not prepared and such. But the LeBron has been the driving force still, even with the lackadaisical play. But then they're learning to integrate the new guys in Gasol and Schroeder, Montrezl Harrell. In terms of performing players, I want to highlight Talen Horton-Tucker. He was really good in the preseason. And then he has backed that up with some really good play in the regular season. And the Lakers finally woke up when they played Houston. From the get-go, they were forcing turnovers, pushing it on the break, getting out in transition. AD hit his first 11 shots in a row or something like that. And he finished with a ridiculous percentage. And in terms of underperforming players, I don't think there's anyone in particular that's been bad. But as I said, the team has looked quite lackadaisical. Coaching-wise, it seems like there's a lot more action on offense. They're running a lot more actual sets rather than letting LeBron just make something up or just running a pick and roll. There's lots of actions with either Gasol as the point guard in the high post or Schroeder initiating actions. And yeah, it's on that end. It's actually looked interesting and promising. Some promising changes on the horizon. But defensively, there's still questions, even though I think the Lakers are still top 10 on defense. I will stop talking there. Expectations are exactly the same. I still expect them to have one of the best records in the league and, yeah, finish at or near the top. Patrice?
So, I'll say you're spot on with the analysis of the Lakers. I think with the Lakers, I think obviously, like you said, they had the championship run. They haven't had much of a preseason or much time off to kind of just chill and to think about, life as champions and whatnot. So, and I think, as we all know with LeBron, he can go up an extra gear when and as necessary. So I think it was a surprise that he even came back so early in this season, because I think people expected him not to play until maybe this month, for instance. So LeBron never misses a game anyway, so he's kind of come back, and I think the team obviously built an identity around him. So when he kind of gets his motor going, the team will have its motor. He always gets his teammates involved and whatnot. So I think he's just let kind of Schroeder and Harrell and those guys just kind of get their kind of feet wet in the system, see how it's kind of going, and then he'll pick it up as and when. He's assists are down by 3 a game. His scoring's down slightly. AD was off for a couple of games as well. So I think it just, it's early. I think when it gets to about 20 games, 30 games, then we'll kind of really know. But I think being top of the Western Conference kind of shows that they're still making their mark and that they still can turn it on at the right time, which I think many teams can't do. So I think they've kind of got that, not innate skill, but I think, LeBron always makes sure they do just enough to kind of be in a good position. And I think regardless of performance, I think they do just enough. I mean, it's the same with the championship run. Teams will beat them and we'll think the Lakers are getting old and we think this, but they always seem to do just enough. And I think that's one thing about the Lakers and LeBron, which you can't underestimate them for. So, I think they will continue, but I think they'll probably drop down to probably about 5th. Probably that's the furthest they probably will go throughout this whole season. But then they will kind of pick it back up to kind of try and get home court advantage and stuff throughout the playoffs. But so far so good, so no worries.
Yeah, not much more to say, right? Like they're the champions, and I agree that just by doing enough, they can win games. As you say, Patrice, I completely agree there. And if they want to, they can do more than enough and just destroy teams. But they don't have to right now, so it's fine.
It's a long season.
But look, all they need to do is keep LeBron on ice long enough to survive the season and make it to the playoff in good shape. At this stage, any team where LeBron is, they are automatically a favorite for the title. You could get LeBron on court and 4 J.R. Smith clones, and they'll still make it to the finals. So
they would not.
I'm just trolling you.
They will forget to ask for timeouts.
I think with AD and LeBron in good shape, like they can do whatever they want. They've got enough firepower to get to the finals, and at least. So I'm not too worried about them. I'm to be honest, I haven't watched a single Lakers game this season just yet. Only highlights, so I'm not 100% familiar with their new style of play or if they've changed the way they played from last season. Because obviously there's a bunch of new players to integrate. So I would assume it's. I think you mentioned they look different, they feel different. It's that being a good or bad thing, I'm not sure, as I've not yet seen them live. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how they'll approach the rest of the season. If they're going to think, okay, like Patrice said, it's okay to drop down to 5, 6, whatever, and trying to get into a good position for the playoffs, or if they're going to say, okay, right, we're aiming for the number 1 spot, and that's it. Let's try to make a claim and make sure everybody else knows that we're the number 1 team. So it'll be interesting. I think is that the team like the Lakers, the regular season is almost like I'm not going to say an afterthought, but like a long training session for the playoffs at this point, because again, because LeBron James, because they don't need to prove anything, they don't need to do anything. They can finish fifth. Even it doesn't really matter at this point. Maybe they want to avoid the Clippers or.
Yeah, you do want home court advantage. I mean, I know it didn't count last season and they ended up winning anyway, but yeah, I do think it's important to step up against your rivals and at some point just put that stamp down and say we can still beat you type of thing. Last year it was we can beat you, and then to get home court advantage as well.
Do you think home court advantage can still be a factor even when there's no people in the stands? Because I was watching a Denver Nuggets game last night, which they beat the Knicks. Was it 2 nights ago? Anyway, and surprise, they beat the Knicks. And I think that it's a massive factor for teams like the Knicks, for example, that if they're losing a game for 20 by 20 points and they score 3 straight baskets, and the Madison Square Garden goes wild, and they might shave another 5-6 points of the lead. Sorry, and that works for every other team in the playoffs. So I think home court advantage is a massive factor when you have the people in the stands. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same. And if they face the Clippers, they play in the same stadiums. So I don't know how important it is going to be this year. We don't know what's going to happen either, because there might be more restrictions in the future, and maybe they will have another bubble, right, for the playoffs. So it might be the same as last year.
It's possible. It's very possible.
Yeah, I think obviously travel restrictions, or not the travel restrictions, but there's just traveling to another city. That always plays a factor. Stuff like that, and but saying that, I think there's been a lot of kind of double games where teams have been playing the same team kind of twice, and you always notice the second game, the away team seems to play much stronger because obviously they know them better. So again, home court advantage, will it really matter in the playoffs? It's a big question mark.
Yeah, I also think there's something to taking. I don't know what it is. It's sort of like a mentality thing to taking the wins and losses seriously, right? And I think that the Lakers have shown that. Last year they said they never wanted to lose 2 in a row, and they went something like 30 games without losing 2 in a row. And I think we saw last year with the Clippers, you never want to be so arrogant that you don't think anything that's happening in the regular season matters, because you never know what kind of bad habits or bad I don't know, just sort of bad energy you can put out there by being that arrogant or that overconfident that, it doesn't matter if we're the 5th seed. Like, well, it might. At some point it might matter. And I think there's something to just getting it done and playing as you're supposed to play as much as you possibly can during the regular season without overextending yourself. And the Lakers definitely want to win games. It hasn't gotten so bad that they don't want to win the games. And I think that is the trap.
Yeah. We all agree. You're right.
Cool. So, we can move over to who's highest in the standings out of the 2 remaining teams.
Spurs, actually.
Spurs.
Yeah, they're not doing too bad this season, huh?
Yeah, beat the Lakers.
So the Spurs. I'm quite excited about the Spurs this year, and I have to say that I haven't been as excited about the Spurs for a while, because they're 5-5 right now, which is again better than I expected. In a way, I'm always positive about the Spurs and want them to do really well, but I wasn't expecting them to start that well. They obviously lost 2 games against the Lakers, which was as well expected. They won a really good game against the Clippers. The main thing that has changed, what has really surprised me, is DeMar DeRozan's 3-point shooting. he's not taking many, which I don't think he will take many ever, but he's averaging about 39%. Patty Mills, 50%. He's always been a really good shooter. But what surprises me the most is Keldon Johnson. I think that he's the biggest surprise in my opinion.
Sure.
He's starting most games. I think all of them actually. He's averaging, Keldon Johnson is averaging 13 points a game. You know, you have DeRozan with 21, Murray with 16, but then Aldridge with 15, Patty Mills with another 15. Lonnie Walker and Keldon Johnson with 13, and Rudy Gay with 11. So I think, you know, they're being solid. And Pop finally, you know, is giving away some of the old school coaching and adapting to today's game. I watched the game against the Clippers, and they shot so well from the three-point line.
Yep.
All of them. I was very, very pleasantly surprised. So, yeah, that's good. That's definitely good to see them adapting finally to this. And, you know, the Spurs haven't been very athletic ever. They were never athletic. But now you have players like Keldon Johnson, which is, you know, explodes to the basket. Lonnie Walker, really good. And DeJounte Murray. You know, exactly. And DeJounte Murray, by the way, I mentioned on the previous podcast, he had a triple-double against Toronto. I can't remember the last time a Spur had a triple-double. You know, so those are good things, you know, good signs. I think underperforming is LaMarcus Aldridge, but he had a really good game against the Clippers. I think he can do a lot better, but I think his physique is just, you know, is giving up on him. His body's giving up on him. Yeah, you know, the defense obviously suffers there. But yeah, I mean, I expect them to make the playoffs. I think that they will be 7th or 8th. They will make the playoffs. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm quite pleasantly surprised on the Spurs this year. Let's see what the judge says.
Spurs, man, Spurs. Going down, bro. They're going down. Let's be real. Let's be frank. I think
denied.
You know. I think the key factor which you kind of pointed out there was LaMarcus Aldridge. I think the fact that he's always been flat-footed. He's got relies on his jumper, which was quite reasonable, quite efficient. But his game is just kind of out of place. His body shape is not right. I think the Spurs still got a big identity crisis. I think the only kind of great highlight of them is DeMar DeRozan. I love the way that he's playing in terms of he's still got this kind of I'm upset that I was kicked out of Toronto attitude about him. You know, still trying to prove his worth, still trying to, you know, sustain himself as a kind of an all-star within the league, which I think, you know, to be honest, I think he's been quite underrated kind of most of his career. I think the fact that he's hitting the three-pointers now is a good and bad sign. I think it's going to take away from his other aspects of his game. I think he's more consistent when he's mid-range, and I think there's no harm in that. I think he's just got to just accept his game as what it is. I mean, he's physical, he's strong, he can go to the hoop and go to the hole. But I think the Spurs, they just need more. They got rid of Forbes, who was a good, decent three-point shooter. DeMonte Murray, I won't pronounce his first name, Jonte. I've never liked his game. I've always been flaky. I think he's a bit too flashy for a point guard, and he's just not really got leadership. So I think they're still looking for that kind of Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili kind of leadership on their team. And, you know, you can't get these players, you know, in the draft system anymore. You've got to kind of really recruit them or go overseas, or you've got to, you know, they're hard to find, basically. Sure. And I think the Spurs, you know, Pop hasn't got that connection with the kids anymore. And it's not his fault.
It's hard to get that connection as well. Like, you know, the connection that he had with that big three, and not the big three, the team that was there. Because even after when Kawhi came over and Danny Green, and as you mentioned, he probably still has it with Patty Mills, you know, but probably is the only one left from that championship team, right? So, yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah. So, I mean, they made the playoffs, you know, definitely first round exit. But, yeah, I think they've still got a bit of a way. I've still got like another 2-3 years before they get there back to regain their form, I'll say.
I'm happy you just said that they're going to make the playoffs, man. That's all I wanted.
I know, but yeah, we'll see.
On that topic, when we say like Jose, you said they'll probably be the 7th or 8th seed. Patrice, you said they'll make the playoffs. When you say that, do you mean, like you said, 7th or 8th seed? Do you count teams that finish 9th and 10th and get to the play-in as teams that make the playoffs?
I mean,
and do you discount teams that are in the 7th and 8th and have to play the play-in as not making the playoffs?
I was talking.
In my opinion, they make it. They're like 7th or 8th overall. Like whether they have to play in the play-in or not, like they'll be in there.
Yeah, I think that's something that the coaches will kind of, watch as time goes on. Because everyone's trying to make the 8th seed, but if you're trying to make the 9th or 10th seed, and you're watching all the wins and the losses and stuff, you're just like, why are you paying for that? You want to pay for the guarantee slot, So we definitely talk about from 8th upwards. Because all the losers play in the play. They're just lucky. It's like the relegation of the playoff battles in England. It's just like, we can make the playoff round and then squeeze through. But you're like, you got in by luck, bro. Seriously. It's just...
But then the 7th and 8th aren't guaranteed. Like teams finish 3rd and 4th in the.
But obviously, that's what I said. If you're counting your wins and losses, that's when you start worrying about it. But if you're 8th and you're 10 games ahead of your 9th spot, then you don't worry about it.
You're confident you'll win,
exactly.
right? I just wanted to touch on that quickly. Spurs look good. We've played them 3 times already. Lakers have played them 3 times already. Lakers won the first 2 and Spurs took the 3rd one, and they shot the lights out. That was the last full game I watched actually, where it was interesting to see because at times LeBron was on DeRozan, and the way he closed out on him was as if he was closing out on the old DeRozan, and DeRozan was just splashing threes on him whenever he didn't step up. And it's because he still hasn't adjusted to the fact that, yes, he's going to take the 3 if he's open, and if he's not guarded appropriately. And I think in the game that the Spurs won, the Lakers shot better from the field, but the Spurs shot way better from 3. They shot like 60% on threes, and when a team's that scorching from 3, you just can't do anything with them. Nothing at all.
Yep.
Tom?
Right. So I think if you remember when we did the first podcast of the season, or when we did the Eastern Conference preview episode, and I said the outlook for the season is, I think, to me at least, there's this sort of optimism around the team, around the whole Knicks organization, because of their moves in the front office and all of the offices. They've made a bunch of changes. So I wasn't expecting any sort of shit show to happen, of any more crap that we've seen for the past 20 odd years at the Knicks. So their summer, again, I always put the summer in brackets, was pretty quiet. They didn't go for a massive big contract as usual as they would do. They almost went for Gordon Hayward, but then they didn't go for that, or he picked the Hornets. And I think they kept the team as it was. They let go a couple of players, but they drafted clever. I'm not going to use the word clever. Or they drafted okay compared to the previous seasons. So they started the season well. They were 5-3 at some point. Now they just got 3 losses in a row, so they're 5-6, and they now are just outside. They're 9th in the East. So it's a good positive start to the season, I think, compared to what we got used to in the past, again, 20-something years. I think it's largely due. Also, if I was going to pick one player that was performing awesomely, it would be Julius Randle, who I think is finally back from his injury problems. So he's averaging 22 a game, rebounding 11, and almost 7 assists a game. So that's all-star. It's all, like on any other team, it's all-star level. Yeah, you're welcome. And he's shooting 35% for three. So yeah, he's also averaging 4.5 turnovers a game, but that's because he's playing that many minutes. So you would expect turnovers to go up. I'm also very happy with the way Mitchell Robinson is turning out to be a good defensive player. I think that's because, well, thanks to Coach Tibbs, also largely due to that influence. He's now still averaging 2 blocks a game, but he's now playing defense, trying to block the other guy. He's also now defending on pick and rolls, and that's you see him moving a lot more now, trying to defend those, and it's quite interesting to see how he's evolved compared to last season or the last 2 seasons he's played, where he was picking up fouls and getting dropped out the game really fairly quickly, and obviously you're out, you can't influence that game anymore. So it's really positive from those 2 players. I could have added Austin Rivers on that list, who is, I think, okay of a player. He's solid. He's averaging about 11 a game. It's not the guy who's going to win you a title, but he's been there. Like, seeing all the crap we've been eating for the last few years, I'm quite happy to get a player like him who's solid. So on the flip side, I think I was going to put underperforming player, and I've got I've got Dennis Smith Jr. and Frankie Smokes, and I got to do my duo there, my winning duo for.
Is DSJ playing? Is he healthy?
He's played a couple games, but it was bad enough to be noticed. So there's. I think we're still waiting on those 2 to get traded to who we don't know. If you can't move James Harden, how are you going to move Frank Ntilikina and Dennis Smith Jr.? So those 2 have we were talking about trading players, trading assets last week. I think I'm trading those 2 guys now out of here. No more hope for those guys. In terms of disappointing player, though, I was expecting a hell of a lot more from Kevin Knox, who's been on the team now. It's his 3rd year, and he's averaging, I think, just around 7 points a game, which is, like, for somebody who was looked at a great pick. Not a great pick, but a good pick. Someone you would have bet he would have got some sort of a good impact on the team. He's just not had any. Just he's shooting poorly. He's not. He's shown flashes of an interesting player, but he's nowhere near that at the moment. And then moving on to the coach, I think Coach Tibbs is doing what he's been doing for the last 200 years, which is making his team play good defense and getting his top 2 or 3 players to play about 45 minutes per quarter. So that's what we've seen from RJ Barrett and Julius Randle. I think they're in the top 5 in minute played.
Yeah.
Isn't Peyton up there as well?
I think he's not that far. Also, he's up there. But I think
they're all over. All the starters play over 30 minutes for sure.
Yeah, they're all over 30 minutes. I think,
and like 30. I think that I'm just Austin Rivers played 38 minutes against the Hornets today. Yeah. It's crazy. Last night, sorry. It's just crazy.
In terms of minutes, you've got Randall's on 37, Barrett's 38, Mitch Robinson's 30 minutes, 29 for Alfred Payton. So they're all like around the 30 minutes, and I think that's where you're starting to see now the last couple of games where they're getting tired already after not even 10 about 10 games, and it's already sort of looking sloppy at times. But look, again, I'm repeating myself, but like, from all the crap we've seen, like everything we've eaten, all that shit for the last 20 years, anything that's slightly remotely positive and it doesn't look like a shit show and it doesn't look dysfunctional and it doesn't look like it's going in like something that doesn't look like the Trump administration, basically, we're happy with it. It's fine. So in terms of prediction, I think what I said in the preview podcast was we'll finish higher than, I think last season we finished 12, something like that. So 12. So, well, if that means anything, according to last season, in the East. I see them just being almost in the play-in tournament if they can carry on that way. If they
Wow.
don't get, I don't think playing tournaments. So ninth or 10th, I think they'll be 10th or 11th. So it's an improvement of 1 or 2 spots from last season. They've shown they're serious enough. They have a good coach in place. They have their defense is already in place. Their offense is not great at all. It's not really that good. So that leaves room for improvement. They need to pick up a bunch of good offensive players next season at some point to make that transition into a strong actual playoff team in the East. But it's looking good in the front office. It looks good. It looks better on the court. So it's at least it's looking up. It's not the greatest team. It won't be winning titles this season or the next season or the next 3 or 4 seasons. But if they keep being serious and keep Bonzo the Clown out of the MSG, we're all right. You know. Judge, what you got?
I don't. Let me rewind and rephrase my thoughts. So, your best player is probably your worst player. Let's put it like that. Julius Randle is probably, he has so much free reign that it's just it's detrimental to the kind of success of the Knicks in terms of that he doesn't play like he should play. You know what I mean? Like he's like, I say like it's almost like a bad Zion Williamson. You know, I think he just doesn't, he's got this physical strength. I remember watching him in Kentucky, like he'd bang guys in the post and he would dominate. And then he come to the NBA, you realize, crikey, everyone's big, so I've got to kind of be more agile and stuff. But I think that's not his strength. I mean, he still can't shoot. He's a terrible 3-point shooter. He obviously makes a couple. He's agile enough to kind of, you know, be the leader on the Knicks, but that's how bad the Knicks are. I think if he was on any other kind of team, you know, he would just be you know, probably a six man off the bench. You know, that would be his strength. I just think like he's not the real leader that the Knicks need. But at the same time, they've got little else. You know, RJ Barrett stinks. You know, he's like, he needs about 20 shots.
Disappointment.
Yeah, you know, but we always knew that. You know, watching him at Duke again, you know, he needed 20 shots to make 5. You know, so it's about quality. You know, but I think the strength that you mentioned was defense. They're strong and big guys. Mitchell Robinson is a great leaper for his size, and he's, you know, tall and gangly, and he can block, and you know, he's got great athleticism. But offensively, man, they're just like the worst thing to watch. And when you mentioned Austin Rivers, I'm like, Austin Rivers is almost like their best, who's got the best mechanics on the team. And I'm like, oh my goodness, Austin Rivers, you know, so we know how bad they are. So Knicks, man, they've got to do something, you know. I think management, coaching, I think they're doing what they can do. But I think the Knicks, they've got such a long way until they get some credibility, at least, you know. And I think they need just a player that kind of infuses all these good positive aspects, but is a great player as well. So I don't know where they're going to find him on the market at the moment. But yeah, then, oh man,
I think they need 2 things to restore that credibility. They need to do 2, 3, 4 seasons where you don't hear from the owner and you let the front office do their jobs. And they're trying to sign players. They might not sign good players. They might fuck up. That's fine. But at least no stupid story like the Charles Oakley stuff when he gets kicks out of Madison Square Garden. Stuff like that, like stupid stuff. Like as long as he stays clear from it for the next couple of seasons, like just keep his mouth shut for a while. Let Leon Rose do his thing. You know, even if it doesn't really work in terms of like bringing in quality players. You know, like I'm not expecting them to bring in James Harden or anybody else, you know, like, but you know what I mean? Like if they can build on what they've got a couple good young players, you know. Quickly is good. Toppins is okay. He's going to be a solid player again. If he can stay clear from injuries, that'll be all right. The bar is so low for a Knicks fan that it's like you'll take anything at this point, as long as it's not anything that's catching fire. Like if you can make it out alive of the season and don't look like an absolute idiot, you're fine. You'll take that. And then, so that's the first thing, like stay clear of any sort of unnecessary distraction off the court, and then on the courts that if they can sign a big player, next season. This season I don't expect, if they don't make the playoffs, I'll be like, nah, fine, what else is new? But I think next season, where they lose a couple big contracts from the team, there's a bunch of players that are going to be unrestricted free agents, so they can go away, and maybe trying to sign somebody. The last few seasons, it's always been rumors about getting somebody like a big name. It was LeBron at some point, which was never going to happen. It was KD at some point. It's always somebody, and it always feels like it's the team that is one, like they need that one big name to sign, and then the others may consider joining.
No, I agree, but it's almost like they need a player that can play to his strength. Someone almost like an Andre Drummond who can just rebound and bang inside, and just kind of develop a culture within the team. I think when they had Amari Stoudemire, obviously we're taking it back, but then Carmelo came and just diffused that whole Amari Stoudemire goodness that he could kind of create, and then the Knicks didn't know where to go because they had two superstars and they were clashing against each other. So sometimes you just need one person who does one thing really well, and I think Randall, he tries to do too many things well. I mean, he's producing numbers wise, and the Knicks are doing 5-5 as you mentioned, so they're
5 and 6.
borderline 5 and 6. But just whether if they can keep it up, then I'll have to just bow down and say completely sorry. But I can't see it. I just can't see it. So Simon Cowley here says,
wow. Harsh. Harsh. Crush my hope.
I think it's always an interesting one when you have a team that is used to or gotten used to being at the bottom, and then they start to get good. Like you always want them to get good in the right way, because you never want them to become a team like, I don't know, like the Kings, right? The Kings have been out of the playoffs for, what is it, since the 90s? No, early 2000s.
Since the 90s,
it's been a long time. Yeah, no, I was trying to think. I forgot about 02. They were good, weren't they?
Yeah.
They almost win the Western Conference Finals against the Lakers.
They should have been the champions.
I mean, no, definitely not. But
David Stern said no.
The stats agree with me.
Cool.
Across the course of the series, check the foul calling. They haven't been in the playoffs since I think 07 or 06 or 7 or something like that. Since Pager led them there. And not only have they not been in the playoffs, but they also haven't necessarily been like the worst team in the league. And when you just sort of float along in that sort of, I don't know, like 7 to 10 range in the league, and you never pick high enough to actually get a game-changing player, and you never are good enough to attract a good free agent, you're just stuck in this kind of limbo. And the Knicks have had some high picks. But outside of Porzingis, sadly, they haven't really hit with them. But I want to ask you, Tom, would you rather just, despite the good start, would you rather just bottom out with the draft as good as next season's draft is being said to be, or this season's draft is said to be?
The thing is, we've drafted so horribly the last few years that, and we always get fucked over at some point. It's like you've got 65% chance of getting the top, and then bang, who gets it? Fucking Cavs. Out of nowhere all the time. So it's like, it's like, with a 2% chance of getting it, it's like, okay, cool. Right. How is that not rigged? So I don't know. At this point, I've had enough of draft picks. I just want like a good, solid, confirmed player who's played like a bunch of years in the league and is again confirmed, and we know what he can do and not do. I think play to his strengths, like Patris said. It's like I think we need to be now able to attract one big player. We need to spend that cash and bring anybody, somebody that's recognizable from it.
Yeah, who is that player though? Because I mean, if I ask you who will your player for the Lakers be, you will say Luka Doncic, but that's impossible. So who is the player that you think fits that category of we need this kind of player? Because you don't want just any player. You just said it, right? It's not any player. You want a good player that can do some things right and create a culture around that player. What kind of player are you looking for? Give us an example.
There was, there was one player I absolutely hate, but he would have fitted with the Knicks culture. That would have been Westbrook. But again, like I cannot stand the guy. I don't think he's I think he's slightly overrated, but he's a stat man. It's like, okay, he's been MVP and all that stuff, but in terms of like, big mouth, imagine Westbrook in the Madison Square Garden with the crowd, him going nuts. That's what you want, because he'll bring he'll bring TV rating. He'll bring a whole bunch of stuff around him. He'll bring that swagger that you need from as a New York team, and it's like that he would have been a good pick. On the court, I don't know if that would translate in more wins. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see with the Wizards, for example, because the Wizards is sort of level with the Knicks, in terms of crappiness. They're down there. We play in the same league, so that would have been my number one pick, even though I absolutely cannot stand the guy. But in terms of play, if you tell me, who'd you bring? Like, obviously Luka, but that's not something that would ever happen. You said it. I think LeBron would have been such an amazing addition.
Would have helped for sure. Would have helped.
It's like, because wherever he goes, he just turns crap. Like the Lakers into amazing teams. So I'm trying to troll you, Dave. It's not working. Yeah. So
we're winning.
Yeah, you're winning. You got nothing to say.
LeBron made the Lakers good after a year, though.
Yeah.
First year, he had no one around him. If you put him in a situation with the Knicks, same thing's gonna happen. Julius Randle is an equivalent to what Brandon Ingram was for the Lakers back then. So you still need players around to make such a 180.
Yeah.
Change that the Lakers made.
Yeah.
But it would have definitely helped, obviously.
But just to sum it up, I think at this point, after so many years of shit, like, you'll take anyone that is remotely close to top 20 players in the league. You're like, if their names linked to your team, you're like, just bring it. Like, whatever, take it.
Yeah, it's
need a Bradley Beal, guys. Need a Bradley Beal.
I would kill for Bradley Beal.
Great there.
He's top scorer right now.
Yeah.
League.
Balling.
Stats don't lie, right? Ball don't lie.
Balling and losing. Westbrook has a triple-double in every game he's played this season, I think, and I think they've all been losses as well. It is funny that you say that, actually, Tom, because that's how I felt. Like, I was sitting down thinking about this, and just the other day, and back when the Lakers were bad, like so bad, we were getting back-to-back number 2 picks. I remember when DeMar DeRozan was a free agent and we were linked to him, and Aldridge as well. He went to the Spurs as a free agent. When we were linked to those players, I found myself like talking myself into it, like, because I'm obviously, DeMar DeRozan might be a top 10 player. He's not a top 10 player, right? But if you're losing, eventually you're like, well, anything's better than this. Like, I'd rather be the Orlando Magic and make the playoffs every year and lose in the first round than be a bottom 5 team every year. And you do talk yourself into those things. But the reality of the NBA is, and we might do this as a topic at some point, if you don't have like one of the top 7 players in the league, Harden, Giannis, Kawhi, LeBron, AD, Steph, Durant, if you don't have one of them,
you're probably not going to win.
Yeah.
Good luck to you.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
What can you say about that?
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's a superstar league,
Talent.
That's it. End of the day, superstar league. It's about names. It's about kind of franchise players. It's about identity, and I think, with the Knicks in particular, I think they need a franchise player, but they need to build it from someone who isn't a franchise yet and turn that person into a franchise player. I don't think Julius Randle is that person. I don't think he he's got great numbers. He's producing. But, you turn around to any kind of B-ball fan and say, Julius Randle, don't like his game. You know what I mean? He hasn't got that kind of... His game doesn't translate with everybody. He's just like, man, he's just like a bull in a china shop. You know what I mean? Just there. It gets it done, but you're like, oh, I can't watch
He has become more composed. I think that was the complaint about him when he was at the Lakers. That, yes, he could drive the ball, and people kept comparing him to Draymond, but he didn't have anywhere near the same basketball like you as Draymond has, and offensively that is. And I think it's because of that, right? It's he has a good handle for his size. You don't expect someone that big and that burly to have a good handle, but the way that he uses it was just never contributing to winning basketball. And I think now you can see his assists are up and he's actually driving to pass, which was something he never ever did before. If he was driving, you knew he was going to try and score, and he would just run into 2 players, 3 players, and try and put it up with his left hand. And that is the difference between, as Patris says, like a player that you can actually build around and someone who can put up numbers but not actually take you anywhere.
I mean, not to keep going on, but I think of like someone like Zach Randolph. You know what I mean? I would take Zach Randolph over Julius Randle. He can't jump at all. He couldn't jump in his prime, but he could just do a little pump fake in the post. And
you mean
what I mean? He was
pick Zach Randolph, right? Not right now. Zach Randolph.
I'll pick him over Julius Randle. Right now. He can't jump 2 inches off the floor and stuff. You make it block 5 times, but I'll
a good player,
take it any day. He's just
smart. Lots of character, leadership.
Yeah, that's what you need.
He had a great redemption arc as well. Like he was at the Blazers, his reputation was in the toilet, and he really turned that around.
Blazers, yeah. Oh god.
Hey, good teammate, Rasheed Wallace.
Well, don't lie. Oh shit! All right. Zach Randolph's my age. Bloody hell! He was born the day after. Oh my god! July 16th. He's born a day after me. Holy
shit! From another mother.
Yeah, sure.
You guys should go and play on the 2's court. That inside-outside game.
We'd be lethal.
Oh man! All right. So I guess we should finish up with some news beats. Everyone has COVID, or at least they're being traced for COVID. Things aren't going very smoothly around the league. The NBA had back-to-back days with games being postponed. There was a game that was almost postponed in the Philly Nuggets game. And I think from what's come out of that game, I think Simmons and Embiid were put down as injured, but Philly didn't list an injury next to Simmons, and they were fined for that. But a lot of the talking heads seem to think that Philly wanted the game to be postponed, and that's why they said they were unavailable. But when they were able to field 8 players, the game went ahead. So the team was fined. There's also been rumors that a lot of players, I think it was Chris Haynes and was it Vincent Goodwill, was on Chris Haynes' podcast, and they were saying that there are players, high profile and not high profile, that do not want to play right now. And I think Doc Rivers came out and said that we shouldn't be playing. But I mean, money talks. There's a TV deal or multiple TV deals that need to be carried out, which is why they cut it to 72 games and didn't reveal the second half of the schedule, so they can squeeze in games wherever they need to. And yeah, I don't know. It feels like the wheels are starting to come off. But with that said, there's still been 8 games a night or whatever crazy number of games there is. Do you where do you guys sort of stand on it? Should they do like a circuit breaker? Should they stop play for a while and then come back, or should they, I don't know, find a way to try and make restrictions stronger? I don't know, because as it is, we know the players don't want to go back into a bubble.
Yeah, you have the deals and the money talking, as you said, but then you also have the players who have their own association and can decide at one point, if they feel in danger, to not play or whatever, right? As they have done in the past with money. I mean, I don't know what the deals are right now, but a solution would be mini bubbles, not a whole bubble with 30 teams. Just, divide them by division, divide them by proximity. I don't know, and play all the games in the season in those 5-10 days. I don't know. But then it will be so boring, right, for everybody. I don't know. I was just reading today that they have new protocols after COVID cases are rising. But it just comes down to logic. And I remember when elite sports started again after lockdowns all over the world, you see players social distancing on the bench, but then they're hugging on the court or on the pitch on a different sport. So what's the logic there? So, but maybe there is a medical logic, but I don't know it. So, and I just can't seem to figure it out. It's just a really tough situation, which has affected everybody and is affecting this as well.
I think that it's not impossible to stop the players playing. Obviously, they can stop it like they did before, like last season. But I think it was new. They was unsure, obviously taking serious kind of precautions. I think now, everything's kind of set in place in terms of getting stuff tested. I think their concern is, are they getting the tests quick enough? I think with the Seth Curry incident, he was on the bench and he was waiting for a test to come, and he still was on the bench, about to play. Then they kicked him out, obviously halfway through once they kind of got the results. So it's about the quickness of the test, how well, then they determining who they've been socializing with, which is another kind of headache, in itself. But I think the reality is these guys are healthy. You know what I mean? They're at their peak of their kind of physical condition. They're not like me and you, kind of walking around, and we haven't been outside for a run in about 2 weeks. These guys are running every day, so essentially they should be really healthy. So them playing, that should continue. I can't see anyone dying on the court anytime soon of COVID. Let's be frank. But I do think that in terms of reputation for the league, they have to be seen to be doing the right thing. Hence why this Kyrie thing is kind of blown up, because if you're not seen to do the right thing, then it reflects badly as a brand, as an organization on the rest of society. That how comes they're not taking it seriously when they're this big corporation making all this much money, when we're told, in our small little jobs, that we have to take it seriously and we have to be on lockdown as well. So I think it's more about reputation. It's more about trying to find that way to kind of keep the money flowing and to one day potentially bring the fans back in to the into the stadiums and whatnot. But I think right now the players are fine, but they've got to kind of follow the rules and regulations just for the sake of it, even though I don't think that it's going to harm them physically too much. What do you say, Tom?
I'd say bubble everything. Fuck it. Just create local bubbles. I think what Jose said is not. I mean, if you can make it work in terms of fixtures, calendar fixtures and stuff, to see how many teams you can play off, and trying to, a mix of having a breaker and a bubble, as in you I think the incubation times is gone down now. It used to be you have to wait 2 weeks before. Now you can wait 5 days or 7 days. If you tested a couple times, you should be fine. I think if you can create local bubbles or division bubbles in one city and get all the teams there, they play each other. Bring over the Lakers to the East and they do their thing in the East for a month. Yes, not ideal, but at least I could get some games sorted out. And then again, if it's still a mess this summer, then have another bubble down in Orlando and get the playoffs sorted that way again. But I can't see the NBA stopping a season again. That would be maybe financial suicide for them. But I don't know. There's no ideal solution. Also, there's nothing that will please everyone. There's nothing that will please the player. But again, I watched the interview with Steven Adams that say, when they were asking him about how do you feel about being in a bubble for like 2 or 3 months, and he went like, look, it's not Syria. They're in a resort. They're okay. They're far away from their families and kids. I think the NBA changed the rules towards the end when they allowed a couple of family members to join. But I know, like you've seen Lillard being absolutely okay with getting kicked out of the playoffs to go and see his kids. So, that was quite cool. And I understand, if you're away from your family for a month or two, it's quite tough. But again, it depends. It depends where your priority is. If you're okay to make that sacrifice again for second year running, then why not do it? But we're seeing in Europe, there's a lot of leagues, football, basketball, that a lot of games are cancelled and rescheduled, and there's no better solution. I think you have to come to an agreement and a common ground between the league and the players. But there's not one ideal solution, I don't think. We'll see. The thing is, the cases in the US is so out of control, and it seems to be all messed up. It's
different rules for different states.
Exactly, it's different rules. Exactly.
Yeah,
different rules.
and maybe after the 20th, when they have a new president, things will get tougher. I don't know, because they were quite relaxed in many ways, right? And there was not as much social pressure, probably. Mm-hmm. So maybe there will be a bit more social pressure in the next month. So we'll see, right?
It could affect it, but at the end of the day, the way that the system works is the statewide laws will be the statewide laws.
Exactly.
And saying that, a lot of the leaders of the states have changed hands as well, so maybe that'll help. But yeah, it's just a tough one. It's really a tough one, and I think basketball suffers more than a lot of these other sports. Baseball has even more games per season, but you don't have to come into contact with the other team, really. In the NFL, they have less games, which means less travel. In a weird way, after being like the torchbearers in the bubble and showing everyone how it's done, now I think we're seeing why these other sports found it so difficult to do things the way they've always done things, because when you do it this way, it's just so difficult to follow restrictions. So difficult. And one of the things that has been popping up more and more lately is that in the bubble, for example, they kept reporting the number of players, and there was no players that acquired it in the bubble, acquired COVID-19 in the bubble, but there were staff, there were trainers, there were coaches, there were other staff members that did, and that is happening a lot now as well, where a masseuse might get it, a physician might get it, a doctor might get it, and then when you're tracing that that person, it's a lot more difficult. If it's someone on the staff that's rebounding, if it's an assistant coach, if it's these people that
the
are
towel
behind
boys,
the scenes,
whatever,
yeah,
cameraman,
it's a lot more difficult when when these people are getting it, and they've come into contact with so many of the players. But then you have the flip side where the league is extra cautious. Like Bradley Beal had to sit out a game because he had hugged Jason Tatum.
Yeah.
And Jason Tatum's out for a couple of weeks. So I don't know. It's all a mess, but it's a mess for everyone, right? This is what we're all going through in our lives. This is the life that we're living. I don't know about your workplaces, but I'm sure some of you are working from home. My workplace is an absolute mess. So
you're looking at my workplace.
Same.
It just is what it is.
And I think just in terms of kind of the players' mentalities, just playing in empty arenas and stuff like that. I think I was watching like Atlanta in particular, watching like Trae Young and watching his kind of level of engagement go down and stuff like that. You know, he's pulling up from the halfway line, but he's not getting any kind of fanfare about it. You know what I mean? You can see the energy just playing in certain environments just isn't applicable for the whole season. You know what I mean? I think every now and again it's going to, I mean, even watching like, I'm a big Crystal Palace fan, forgive me. And
good luck with that.
And teams in the Premiership, like sometimes they lose like 6-7-0, and I thought it's never happened before. But I thought these players are not the motivation and the drive is being really tapped on. And people say, well, they get paid tons and tons of money, but I think money isn't what it's all about. It's about people. It's about contact. It's about fanfare. It's about being put on a pedestal. And I think sometimes when they're just playing, they look around and think, crikey, it's just some cardboard cutouts on the seat. You know, how excited can I really get about this game? And you know, we know Mr. Kyrie Irving is Mr. kind of disengagement when he needs to be. So
exactly.
It won't surprise me. But
it's like when you go to work, it's like you're not, you know, so everyone goes through the same sort of cycle where you don't, maybe not losing motivation is not the right way of saying it, but like, so, you know, there are days when you're not feeling it, or you're not maybe as engaged as you should be, right? But it happens to everyone. Everyone's human. Like you go through ups and downs, and the things that pick you up is not seeing your paycheck at the end of the month going, oh shit, I just made $2,000, $2.5 grand, $3,000, yeah, now I'm up. It's more like if your manager notices it and say, oh yeah, by the way, well done on that. Like, is that feedback from other humans? You know, like somebody from another department, for example, says, oh, I like what you did. Like, oh, thanks for your email, whatever it is, whatever the case may be.
I think sorry.
This is what does it. This is what does it. And it's the same for players.
In a way, like that what you're just saying about a common office workspace or whatever workspace translate to the game, and specifically to basketball, where you have the bench so close to the court, and you can probably hear everything and everybody talking. Right now it's team chemistry. You're going to notice that teams that have best chemistry, like the Lakers, for example, and you know, hands down, I think that the chemistry that they have, the hype that they create, you know, within their team when they score a simple basket, I love that, you know. And teams that don't have that, like I was watching again the Knicks against the Nuggets the other day, man, the Knicks were just like, they were not talking to each other in the bench, you know. They were looking at the coach, like, come on, you know, that's team culture right there.
It's funny because,
you know, NBA, and it's harder to create a team chemistry in the NBA because they don't have as many practices, as many trainings, right? They just shoot around, so the players can go and shoot around on their own, work on their game on their own. But that is, you know, so the coach has a big responsibility there, but also the leader, the player, the leader in the court and in the locker room is what creates chemistry. And again, relates to what Patris said. You need a guy, you know, that for the Knicks, for example, that is going to have that leadership and create that chemistry, right? And Julius Randle, who's supposed to be the leader, is not that personality. So there you go. On the other side, you have LeBron James, which is such a good, you know, chemistry creator in a way, right? And creates this chemistry on the team. So that's amazing. So that's going to be a massive difference, I think.
That's the one thing I've noticed in the last couple, or especially from last season when they stopped having crowds in the stands. It's like the bench's reactions are just freaking epic. It's like it's almost like this contest going around the league at the moment. It's like you'll see, like, give it 3 months, you see like a free throw you'll see people going fucking mental.
Yeah, behind yeah, definitely.
It's just like what did I see the other day? It was like somebody pull up for again, ball don't lie, mid-range game. Somebody pull up for a mid-range too, and the bench went fucking mad. I was like, what's going on? Like waving towels
these
and stuff. I was
guys,
like,
they're used to playing for 20,000 in front of 20,000 people. They're gonna know how we play now, right? In front of my mom and my friends, right? Like they will have me up so much when I play, So, and that's so important to you, isn't it? So that they're gonna feel it right now from their teammates, right? So I think that's it's in a way it's cool. It brings back the game to its basics, right?
Yeah. Actually, saying that before we finished that, I was watching we're stepping away from basketball, but watching the Champions League. I think it was quarterfinals last season, but Paris was playing against Madrid or against Barcelona, and they finally kicked them out of the Champions League. And I remember the Paris coach was asking for the bench to make as much noise as possible, trying to hype up the players on the team as on the pitch. It was quite interesting to see that you'd actually put the camera on him, turning to his bench, going like, make some noise. Like every time there's a good play, like make sure you applaud, make sure you shout, make sure you literally play what the crowd, play the role the crowd should be playing. And it's quite interesting to see that shift also. But yeah, I'm looking forward to free throws being celebrated like titles soon. That'll be interesting.
People running on.
I think the Nets, they need is it Theo Pinson back again to kind of hype their bench and stuff like that. He was a big hype man. But, yes,
there's a few over the years. It's always like the 12th man who's the biggest hype man on the team.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's your role, isn't it? When you're in the bench, you just need to help the team any way you can. And those are the players who have strong personalities. And one day when they have the chance, they're going to give you that 100%.
Yep.
Sure. All right. We will wrap things up there. Remember to like, share, subscribe, review, retweet, all the good things with the podcast. If you give us a review, remember 5 stars, please. Any other feedback, contact us on socials or via email at Grit and Grime Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I think that's it. I have been your host, David Sagoe. So from me, from Thomas Arnal.
Yeah, soon we'll be on onlyfans.com.
Hey.
Make some real money.
Make the real money. Spicy
real
takes.
money, baby.
Spicy takes. Hot takes.
Jose.
Yes. Cheers, guys.
And Patris.
See you soon, guys.
We're out of here.